It's the prosecution's job to prove that the defendant, Chris Beck, is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. What does that mean? Simply put, the question you need to ask yourself is whether there exists a plausible alternative explanation to the facts that you will be presented today. Here's how we are going to prove Chris Beck is guilty. We are going to use testimony of 4 witnesses. 2 of these witnesses will be called by the prosecution, and 2 of these witnesses will be called by the defense. That's my job. Your job as a member of the jury is to examine the evidence and determine what the truth of the facts are. Based on that, you, the jury, only have to determine whether the defendant is guilty or not guilty as to the charges. In order for the prosecution to prove that Chris Beck is guilty, we must prove that the car must have belonged to someone other than Chris Beck, that possession of the car must have been taken without lawful authority, that the defendant must have driven or taken away the car, that the driving of the car must have been done without lawful authority. And keep in mind, it doesn't matter whether the defendant, Chris Beck, intended to keep the car, but he must have had intended to take unlawful possession of the vehicle. On the night of September 2nd, a silver Mercedes belonging to Marty Fenster was stolen from outside his home. Mr. Fenster saw a single person wearing a green top driving away in his car. He subsequently notified the police that his car had been stolen. Officer Smith, a 15-year veteran of the police department who has investigated over 150 auto thefts, will testify that he saw a person in a green shirt driving a silver Mercedes. Upon obtaining information that a silver Mercedes had been reported stolen, Officer Smith approached the vehicle, which at that time the vehicle accelerated in an attempt to evade the police. Officer Smith subsequently turned on his lights and sirens and chased after the vehicle. The vehicle eventually crashed into a light pole. The occupants fled the vehicle from both sides and ran in different directions. Chris Beck, the accused, was seen by Officer Smith leaving from the driver's side of the vehicle and was apprehended. Upon inspection of the stolen vehicle, Officer Smith found an open backpack with the defendant's name and address written on it. Also discovered, tangled in the straps of the backpack, was a large screwdriver and a hammer, which were used to bypass the ignition switch of the steering column, making it easy for the car to be started without a key. Terry Potter, a defense witness and childhood friend of the accused, will testify that the defendant was in fact wearing a green sweatshirt. Mr. Potter will testify that the accused, Chris Beck, had a backpack with him the night of the incident, and when the accused placed the backpack on the ground, it made a clunking sound. Mr. Potter gave a statement that the accused was saying something about, quote, looking for some action, end quote. The defendant himself admitted that on the night of the incident, that he in fact was wearing a green sweatshirt with a big hood and carrying a backpack. These are the facts of the case, and they are undisputed. Thank you.
I'm going to interrupt here for a minute. The prosecutor made reference to defense witnesses. I just want the jury to understand this defendant does not have to testify. This defendant does not have to present any witnesses. He does not have to present any defense at all. He has a Fifth Amendment right, as all citizens do, to remain silent. It's the prosecutor's burden to prove that he is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't know if the defense will be presenting any witnesses, but let me turn it over to the defense attorney for their opening.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Proceed.
Good afternoon, members of the jury. I want to thank you so much for being here and giving us your time. Your job here is crucial in making sure our legal system works fairly. Today, the crucial job we are asking you to perform is to judge the facts surrounding this case and this young man, Christopher Beck. Chris is a good kid who has never been in trouble before. The evidence we'll present to you today will show that Chris is sitting here accused of something he did not do, and we need you to make sure the law works fairly for Chris. The prosecution must beyond a reasonable doubt that on the night of September 2nd, it was Chris who either deliberately took Mr. Fenster's car or that sometime after he entered the car, Chris took control of it as the driver and knew 100% that the car was stolen and had time to hide this fact. Today, the prosecution wants you to hear that on the night of September 2nd, Mr. Fenster called the authorities at 8:21 p.m. to report his silver Mercedes stolen. And just a few minutes later at 8:30, the car was spotted by Officer Smith right before crashing into a light pole. They want you to hear that Chris was seen leaving from the driver's side of the car and was taken into custody, and that's it. But this case is a case of assumptions and mistaken identity. On the night of September 2nd, Chris went for a walk. At 8 p.m., he spotted his friend Terry Potter and they began a conversation that lasted till just about after 8:15 p.m. After having resumed his walk at approximately 8:30, Chris accepted a ride from an acquaintance named Ralph he'd frequently met around the neighborhood. Chris had to climb into the back seat of the two-door Mercedes because a friend of Ralph's was already in the front passenger seat. Understandably, Chris was completely confused when moments after getting in the car, the driver, Ralph, suddenly slammed down on the gas pedal and sirens started blaring behind them. Before Chris even had a chance to react, the Mercedes crashed. Chris saw what he thought coming into the vehicle and he knew he had to get out fast. Because the driver's side door was smashed and wouldn't open, Ralph and his friend took their chance to escape through the passenger door. This left Chris with no other option than to escape through the driver's side window and escape what he thought was a car fire. When the officer who had been chasing the car sees Chris leaving this way, they instantly jump to the conclusion that he is the driver and detains him while Ralph and his friend take their chance to flee the scene. There are 5 crucial facts the prosecution may not want you to hear. 1, the 2 other occupants of the vehicle were allowed to flee the scene and they were never apprehended and never questioned. Fact 2, Mr. Fenster's car only has 2 doors and the driver's side door was severely damaged in the crash that night. This crucial evidence shows exactly why Chris was out of the driver's side window of the car. Fact 3, neither Officer Smith nor the owner of the vehicle could identify the driver that night and no one saw Chris driving the car. Fact 4, Mr. Fenster was admittedly drunk in the events of this night and the only thing he saw was the back of his moving vehicle in the dark heading down the street. The biggest piece of evidence is 5. During the exact time Mr. Fenster's car was being taken from his driveway, Chris was witnessed in a completely different location over a quarter mile and 35 minutes away, speaking to his friend, Terry Potter. The only reason Chris is sitting here today is because someone leapt to the wrong conclusion. The truly heart-wrenching part is knowing that Chris might not have had to go through this if the 2 real culprits had been apprehended and questioned. Members, ask that today you find Chris Beck not guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Ms. Prosecutor, your first witness?
Yes. Okay. So the prosecution is going to call the first witness, Liz Smith.
Sorry.
We calling Liz Smith our first witness for the prosecution.
Is that witness here?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and will you swear her in, clerk?
Yes, Your Honor. Officer Smith, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, you may proceed.
All right. At approximately what time did you see the silver Mercedes driving on State Street, Mr. Smith, I'm sorry.
Thank you. At 8:30 p.m.
Okay, and did you notice what the driver of the silver stolen Mercedes was wearing?
The driver was wearing a green sweatshirt.
Okay, and did you see the defendant exiting the vehicle?
Yes.
Okay, and how did the defendant exit the vehicle when you arrested him?
From the driver's side.
Okay, and on your statement, at the time of arrest, the defendant was Mirandized and request counsel and was not questioned. Is that true?
Yes, that's true.
Did you inspect the car after the accident?
I did.
And what did you find up on your inspection?
In the back seat, I found a backpack with the defendant's name and address on it. There were some contents inside, and also tangled up in the straps were a hammer and a screwdriver.
Okay, and was the backpack open?
Yes, yes, the backpack was open.
Okay, and in your statement, you say that the car's ignition switch has been punched. Can you explain that?
Yes, yeah, when ignition is punched, it means that someone took some tools and, punched out the ignition switch so that was hanging out with the wires exposed. In this case, someone can start the car using the wires.
Okay, how long have you been employed as a police officer?
For 15 years.
And how many auto thefts have you investigated?
It's been quite a few, at 150.
Okay, so from your experience, would you say that the hammer and the screwdriver that you found in the back seat were used to punch the ignition?
Yes, from my
Objection,
experience, I
Your-
would say absolutely. yes.
Objection, Your Honor.
What's the objection?
Counsel's leading the witness.
Okay, let's continue. I think she already asked the question. Good objection. You can
Yes.
continue to answer.
Yes, okay, thank you. Yes, from my experience, I would say the hammer and screwdriver were used to punch the ignition.
Okay, so, and when you punch the ignition, is that significant?
Yes, because it allows someone to easily start the car without the keys.
Okay, so no further questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any cross?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor, juror number 11 asked to leave and then come back. Usually this isn't something that we would permit absent a recess, but given the time constraints, our options are to not allow juror 11 to leave or dismiss juror 11 and proceed with 10 jurors. We do not have time to take a brief recess.
Okay, let's let her continue as is.
Okay, so juror number, so we'll just proceed with only 10 jurors then, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, juror 11, if you can stay, you're more than welcome to stay. If you do leave, then we will not continue. But we thank juror 11 for her service, and we we'll move on now.
Counsel?
Thank you, Your Honor. All righty. Just want to thank the jury again for making it here. So Officer Smith, I see that you've been a police officer for 15 years.
Yeah.
And so how many car theft incidents have you investigated?
It's been 150 auto thefts.
So it's the opinion of this court that you are an expert in car thefts.
I cannot say what the opinion of the court is, but I have a lot of experience with, auto thefts and the situation surrounding them.
Okay, thank you. So given your experience, I'm sure that you're aware that there actually is 3 tools commonly used to punch the ignition of a car. Those tools are a large screwdriver, a hammer, and a tool called a drift punch.
Can you repeat that last part? And it's what?
Are you aware that there's 3 tools commonly used to punch the ignition of a car?
Well, I can only say, what was included in the car at the time.
Cool. So if it appease the court and the jury, I would like to let So you did not find a drift
Object.
punch.
Object to what?
I object to that, like he is trying to put the witness, Mr.
He really hasn't asked this question yet, but let's see what his question is.
So Officer Smith, you did not find a drift punch tool in the car at all.
I did not.
Objection, relevance.
Relevance.
I'm gonna overrule that. Go ahead.
Thank you. So Officer Smith, now that we've gotten that out of the way, what on the evening of September 2nd, 2021, what model car did you see going down the highway?
Saw a late model Mercedes silver.
Okay. A late model, like 1990s, or what would your estimate be?
I'm not sure of the exact estimate, but it was a later model.
Okay. Awesome. If it appease the court, I would like to admit 2 pictures.
Well, why don't you bring up a picture and ask the witness if it fairly and accurately represents whatever it is you want it to represent, and then we can admit it.
Yes, Your Honor. So let me see, I'll share the screen. So a late model, all right, around 1990s to 2000. That would be something like this. Would this be an accurate depiction of what you saw that night?
I'm not positive, but I know that the license plate and VIN number did match what was reported stolen.
Okay, okay, but so given testimony, the car that is in question of being stolen is a 2021 silver Mercedes 2-door sedan. That car would be this. Is this what you saw that night?
And again, it was driving by. I did inspect the car, but it was a silver Mercedes, and it did match what dispatch had said was stolen.
Okay. So a late model and a newer model side by side. It seems like there's a little bit of a difference here, an inconsistency in your report. Would that be true?
I object to that
Objection,
question.
asked and answered.
I'm gonna allow it. You're trying to impeach her with a prior statement?
Yes.
That's all right, go ahead.
Okay, well, I was heading eastbound and the car was heading westbound, and it looked to be a late model silver Mercedes. It was nighttime. When I did call dispatch, they did say one was stolen. And as I said previously, it did match the VIN and license plate number of the stolen vehicle.
Okay. Did you, in the course of this incident, did you ever see my client driving this car?
I did not get a good look at the driver's face, but I did see they were wearing a green sweatshirt.
Defense counsel, you're a few seconds beyond your allotted time. I did pause it for the objections. If Your Honor agrees, if you have one more question, I think we have time for that.
I agree.
I do have one more question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so given that the speed and you weren't really able to see if it was really a late model or 2021, is it safe to say that you never saw my client driving this car?
Object. He was arrested at the scene.
It's the question's legitimate. Go ahead. She may answer.
Can you repeat the question?
Did you, in fact, beyond any doubt, did you see my client driving this vehicle?
I did not see the driver clearly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
That's all the defense rest.
is there any redirect?
Yes, I would like to redirect, Your Honor.
Okay,
Okay, so Mr. Smith, you arrest the defendant at the time of the accident, correct?
Yes.
And were you able to check the registration to see if the vehicle belonged to the vehicle that was reported stolen?
I did not check the, yes, actually, I did check the registration. It did not belong to Mr. Beck.
Okay, so it was reported stolen, correct? According
sorry?
to your statement, this vehicle was reported stolen by your dispatcher, is that right?
Yes, it was reported stolen by the dispatch, yes.
Okay, that's all I had to ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have
Okay, I
one
guess-
question, if I could, Your Honor.
Well, we're not going to have both prosecutors asking questions. Is there another witness for the prosecution?
Yes, Your Honor, there is. The defense would like to call Marty Fenster.
Witness Fenster here?
Yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, great. Prosecutor, you may proceed.
Thank you. Please identify yourself for the members of the court.
My name is Marty Fenster.
And on the night your car was stolen, what were you doing?
At the time the car was stolen, I was listening to Prairie Home Companion and having some break.
Okay, and I'm sorry, at that, what time does that program usually start?
Prairie Home Companion comes on at 8.
Thank you. And what happened next?
Well, the show had just started and I heard a vehicle start outside my home. And it took a few minutes for it to register that it was my vehicle. But once I
Okay.
realized, go ahead.
I'm sorry, and once you realized it was your car, what did you do?
I went outside to see what was going on and the car was driving away. So I chased the car. I was able to see that the person driving the car was wearing a green top, maybe sweatshirt or sweater. I couldn't tell exactly.
Okay, and what did you do after that?
So I did chase the car for a little ways and then realized that that probably wasn't a very good idea. So I returned to my home.
Okay, and upon returning to your home, what did you do then?
It finally dawned on me once I got home that I needed to call the police. So I called the police and reported the vehicle stolen.
All right, thank you very much for your testimony.
Is there any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, go ahead.
All righty. Mr. Fenster, what were you exactly doing that day or prior to the incident?
Well,
Objection, relevance.
There
Okay,
is
why
a
don't
state
you,
of mind, Your Honor.
well, narrow it down a little bit.
Okay.
Not what were you doing all day? Give me a tighter time period.
All right, Mr. Fenster, were you at a bar at any time before this incident?
on that day,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. About how many drinks would you say you had at that bar?
Objection, Your Honor. Defense is trying to say that the witness was impaired, but clearly by the witness's actions, the witness could hear. She heard her car start. The witness had the motor skills to leave the house, chase the vehicle, come back to her house, and the witness had the wherewithal to notify the police that her car was stolen.
Okay, counsel, you're arguing, first of all, he's perfectly entitled to determine on his own, with his own questioning, whether the witness was impaired. Whether the witness was impaired is a question for the jury. Proceed, defense counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I'll ask the question again. Around how many drinks did you have at this bar?
3.
3? Okay. How long have you been drinking, would you say?
A lot, many years.
Many, many years. Okay. And 3 drinks, does that normally get you pretty intoxicated?
Not even close.
Cool. Awesome. Now I would like, when you got home, did you pour yourself any more drinks?
I did. I had some brandy.
Some brandy. Cool.
I was out of
And-
bourbon.
Okay, thank you. So when you heard this car, about how many sips of brandy did he have?
How is that relevant?
State of mind, Your Honor.
It's, continue. Objections overruled.
It was very early in the program and I had just poured it. If I had to estimate, I would say maybe 3.
Okay. So around what time does your program start?
It starts at 8 p.m.
Okay. And when did you realize that someone had started your car?
Well, at first I just heard a car and that was a few minutes into the show. If I had to estimate, I'd say, 10 minutes at the most. And it was only once I got up and looked out that I realized it was my vehicle.
Okay. And when you saw, around what time was this?
Around 8:10.
Around
8:10,
8:10?
11. Yes, sir.
Okay. So when you noticed that they had your car, what did you do?
I left my home and went out thinking that maybe I could yell to them to stop. They took off quickly and I chased them. I was yelling. I realized that was futile. So I returned to my home.
Okay. So it took you, the police dispatch says that you called in at 8:21 p.m. So from what I'm getting from your story is it took you 11 minutes to run, looks like 1 block and then back, so 2 blocks total.
That sounds about right.
Okay. Okay. Why didn't you call the police when you realized your car was being stolen?
I have to say, I'm not sure. Something said, run, see if you can stop them.
Okay. Now, I would like to talk about the damage done to your vehicle. What exactly is the damage to your vehicle from this incident?
Sir, I never saw the vehicle after it was recovered. My insurance company notified me that the front driver's side door had been smashed in. And the frame was bent, but I didn't see the vehicle until it was repaired.
Okay. So the front door was smashed in and the frame was bent.
Yes, sir.
All right. Did they tell you if the door opened at all?
No, sir.
Okay.
Counselor, we're pretty much beyond time. Do you have one more question?
Yeah. Just one more. Mr. Fencer, do you have any family in the area?
Yes, sir. Not in the neighborhood, though.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further examination from the state?
Okay, well, yeah, we would like to redirect, Your Honor.
Okay.
Okay, so did you ask permission to anyone to use your car that night?
I did not give anyone permission to use my car.
Okay, and you just give me a second. All right, so there was no report if they were able to open or no the door, right? The mechanic just repaired the vehicle and told you that was damaged.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, that's it. That's all we have. Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything further of this witness? Okay, the next witness?
Defense.
Your Honor, at this time, the prosecution may choose to rest. Is that the case? I think we went through all the prosecution witnesses submitted in advance of trial.
Is that right that the prosecution rest?
Yes. Yes. Your
Okay,
Honor.
then the defense, will the defense, will there be a defense today?
Yes, Your Honor. The defense would like to call Christopher Beck to the witness.
Okay, Mr. Beck's on the stand.
All right, Mr. Beck, are you able?
Counselor, I'll just take a moment to swear in the defendant.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Right.
Please proceed,
Mr.
Counselor.
I said I do. Did it go through?
Yes.
All right.
Proceed.
Mr. Beck, are you able to tell the jury your full name and what grade you were in school?
My name is Christopher Beck, and I am a senior.
All right. Have you ever been in trouble before, Mr. Beck?
No.
Okay, thank you. Now, Chris, on September 2nd, can you tell us about what time you left your home?
I left my home at approximately 8 o'clock.
Okay. And where did you go?
I left my house and I walked towards State Street.
All right. After you walked towards State Street, what did you do?
I had just gotten out of an argument with my parents, and so they were telling me I couldn't use the car, so I figured I'd walk. And so I continued walking until I met Terry Potter and was having a conversation with Terry Potter. I was there for a long time.
Okay.
And after a while,
How do you know Terry Potter?
Terry Potter is also a senior at my high school.
Okay. And how long did you stay at Terry's?
I would say it was about I got to State Street by about 8:30, so a little bit before 8:30, I left Terry Potter's house.
Okay. Can you give like an approximate time?
I mean, not off the top of my head, I was walking.
Okay. Cool. Mr. Beck, were you wearing a book bag that night?
I only recall wearing my green hoodie. Oh wait, yes, I had my backpack with me. It had my windbreaker in it.
Was there anything else in there besides your windbreaker?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, no worries. Let me just remind you with your statement, bud. We have, it says here that you had a copy of War and Peace.
Objection? Okay, go ahead.
It says that you had a copy of War and Peace in your book bag. Is this true?
Yeah, if that's what I put in the statement. I'm sorry, it's been a bit.
No, it's all good. We get frazzled with court. I totally understand. So War and Peace, that's a pretty big book. How heavy would you say that book was?
I don't know, 5 pounds.
Okay.
Objection, speculation. You can't ask him how much how much a book weighed and actually be accurate.
I'm going to overrule it. It's an estimation. The jury understands that.
Thank you.
Continue.
So what did you do after that? After you left Terry's?
Oh, well, I know this guy in the neighborhood, Ralph, and so we talk now and then. And he drove up, and they were in, it looked like a late model silver Mercedes Benz. And so I was like, where did they get the car? Wow. And then they were like, hey, you want to come for a ride with us?
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
It's all good.
Counsel, continue.
And so I jumped in the back, and we started driving around.
Okay. Now you say you were in the back seat then?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. This was a 2-door car?
Yes.
All right. Now, how was Ralph driving prior to you seeing police lights?
Um, it seemed fine. We were cruising, we were driving around, having a good time,
Okay, cool. After the car crashed, can you tell me what happened then?
Well, I got stuck. I couldn't get out. There's no back door. So, I'm trying to get out of the car and the door won't open. And I think, Ralph, couldn't get out either. So ultimately I just, I saw some smoke and I thought I better get out of this car. So I climbed through the window.
You climbed through which window?
I believe it was the driver's side window.
So you climbed out the driver's side window.
Yeah, but from the
Okay.
back. Because you know how when you sit into one of those cars, you go all the way
Yeah,
back,
yeah,
you
yeah. I
climb
get it.
out.
So, Chris, why didn't you just open the door and walk out?
What?
Why didn't you just open the car door?
Oh, the other door?
The driver's side door.
I couldn't get it open.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no,
Where did the other two guys go?
they ran off.
They ran off. Okay.
Yeah, and then I'm
Um,
standing there, and then the police they read me, I guess, my rights, and then they took me into custody.
Okay, thank you. At any point during the night, were you wearing a windbreaker of any sort?
Well, I had my green hoodie, but my windbreaker was in my backpack.
Okay. And at any point during this drive, were you talking with the front passengers via the middle of the two seats?
I mean, we were talking in the car, we were cruising and just having a good time.
Okay, cool. Were you wearing your seatbelt?
I think so. Usually I just wear.
Okay, cool. Now, the driver, Ralph, right? Did he say anything to you that made you feel weird?
Well, when I asked him whose car it was, he said my uncle.
Objection, hearsay.
I'll rephrase, Your Honor. At any point, were you driving this vehicle?
What was your answer?
No.
Okay. Defense rest, Your Honor.
Okay. No more witnesses? Any rebuttal case by the prosecution?
Okay, can we cross-examine the witness, Your Honor?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Your Honor,
Yes, yes.
I just want to clarify, does the defense not intend to call Terry Potter?
No, we just rest with this witness. Sorry, I must have.
We
Crazy.
do want to call.
Yeah,
Terry
we
Potter
do have another
after
witness.
this, yes.
Well,
Okay.
let's do the cross-examination first, and then you can call your second witness.
I just wanted to clarify that Terry Potter is still going to be called, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, so Mr. Beck, let's recap, okay? So at the night of September 2nd, right after the accident happened, what you wearing when you were arrested by Mr. Officer Smith?
Oh, I was in my green hoodie.
Okay, your green hoodie. And on your statement, you got out of the car from the driver's side, is that true?
Yeah, I had to climb out the back.
Okay, that's it. That's only yes or no. Thank you very much. So did the owner of the Mercedes, did you know who was the owner of the Mercedes you were in when you got arrested?
It was Ralph's uncle.
No. Did you know the owner? Did you, in your statement,
Objection,
you
Your Honor.
say that you asked?
Relevance.
Excuse me. It's certainly relevant. The ownership of the vehicle is clearly relevant, but she is entitled
It is
to,
relevant.
she's entitled to confront him with a prior statement if she likes. So continue.
Yeah.
Counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. So on your statement, you said that you asked who was the owner of the vehicle, and
Mhm.
Terry Potter say was his uncle and he left. Is that true?
Objection, Your Honor. Terry Potter said it was his uncle. I'm
No,
not-
not Harry Potter. I'm sorry. I just. got
Yeah, it was
confused with the
Ralph.
name. Ralph, yeah, and
Yeah.
Ralph had left after that.
Yeah, and I was worried, but
So-
I ended up knowing Ralph, so it seemed like fine.
Okay, and because according to your own words, you say to them like where you got these leak wheels because you thought it was a cool vehicle, and at that same night you stated that you had an argument with your parents about to use their vehicle. Is that correct?
What? Oh, yes, but then I talked to other people
Okay,
and pulled off a
and
bit for a walk.
And you said in your statement as well that you left your house at 8 p.m., walked towards State Street to think these things over, and your house is only 1 block from State Street. Is that correct?
Yeah, but I stopped to talk to Terry Potter.
Okay, and then after you left your house, you stopped at Harry Potter, who lives like 4 houses from your house, but it took you like 15 minutes for that walk. And you only got to State Street at 8:30 according to your own words, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so you just say to the defense that you drove around for a while, you just got there at 8:30, you drove around for a while. in that
Objection, Your Honor.
vehicle, But the accident happens at 8:30. So how is that possible? That you got there 8:30, the accident happens at 8:30, and you drove for a while.
Objection, Your
Hold-
Honor. This is
hold on, what's the-
speculation.
What's the-
Mr. Beck should wait for the defense counsel to make their objection before you answer that question, okay?
What's the objection?
The counsel is leading the witness.
No, I'm
Sir,
reading
excuse
from
me.
his statement,
Excuse
the
me, counsel,
timeline.
counsel, cross-examination, you're allowed to lead witnesses. You can't lead on direct, you can on cross. So, sustained.
Thank you, Arne. So let me understand,
What?
Mr.
You mind
Okay,
if I respond?
No, let her ask the question.
Oh, okay.
Ask the question again.
okay. So how is that possible that you got to State Street at 8:30, got into the stolen vehicle, drove for a while, and then got in an accident at the same time, 8:30? And I don't think that much sense of time because you left your friend's house at 8:15. You got there 8:30, drove for a while and got the accident. Everything happens at the same exact minute. I don't
Objection,
get
Your
it.
Honor. This
I-
question is very convoluted and my
It's the
client
credibility.
clearly said that he was approximating the time around 8:30.
Okay, on that basis, I'll sustain it.
Okay, I'm just trying to get the police report with the witness. So maybe I have one more question for you. Were you carrying a backpack when you stopped at Harry's home with some stuff inside?
Hmm?
Were you carrying a backpack when you stopped at Harry's house?
I believe so.
talk
It
to
had my
him.
windbreaker in it.
Okay. And just one more question, I'm sorry.
We have time for one more question, Counselor.
Okay. So even if according to you, you were just a passenger, you know the car did not belong to your friend because you say he left and say it belonged to his uncle. So it
Objection,
was
Your
a
Honor. This calls
possibility
for
that vehicle was-
speculation.
I'm
This
going
calls
to
for
sustain-
speculation. He answered the question and said he thought it belonged to the person driving.
I'm going to sustain the objection. It's argumentative.
Okay, so because you say in your own words, you say the car didn't belong to your friend because he left when he say it belonged to his uncle. So even if you didn't steal the vehicle, you knew it could be stolen and you got into the vehicle anyway.
Objection, Your Honor. The client has no knowledge of this.
It's argumentative again. You can argue that to the jury in summation, but you can't argue with the witness. Okay, is there anything further with this witness? Are there any other witnesses? If there are,
Yeah,
let's
I
call
just
them
have
now.
one more question, Your
No,
Honor.
it's too late at this point.
Okay,
We're moving on to
Redirect,
the
Your
next
Honor.
witness. Oh, you want to redirect? Okay.
Real quick. So,
Briefly.
Mr. Beck, I just want to clarify something. You were at your friend Terry Potter's house at 8:15-ish? Yeah, you're
Yeah, it was
saying?
about 8:15, and then, I hopped in the
Okay,
car.
all right, that's all we need. That's all we need. And so you weren't anywhere near State Street at 8:15 then?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay. And just to clarify again, you never in fact took control of this vehicle.
I don't
All right.
believe, yeah. I mean, I just climbed out the side.
Okay, okay. That's all we have, Your Honor.
Okay, let's move on to the next witness.
Your Honor, I believe that there are no other witnesses submitted. Is that, or no, Terry Potter. You're
We
right.
have Terry Potter.
Sorry,
Or
Your Honor.
Terry Potter.
Ms. Potter, please forgive me. Okay. Allow me to swear you in. Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you, Ms. Potter.
Good afternoon, Terry. Can you say your full name and what grade you're in?
Hi, I'm Terry Potter and I'm a high school senior.
And can you say what street you live on?
Yeah, I live on 1099 Pine Street.
Great. And how do you know Chris Beck?
Chris and I are friends. He lives down the street. We've been friends for the last 10 years.
And how far away is Chris's house from yours?
It's just 4 houses away.
And on the night of September 2nd, where were you when you saw Chris that evening?
I was sitting on my front porch and Chris walked by and we stopped and talked for a while.
And do you remember if you saw Chris with anything with him?
Yeah, he had his a little blue backpack with him.
You said a little blue backpack?
Yeah, it was a
Okay,
small backpack.
Great. And do you know how long you talked for? What time you stopped talking?
I think it was a little after 8:15 when he left.
And how do you know it was after 8:15 when he left?
I remember I looked at my watch after he left, and I
So you
remember,
were,
yeah,
so you were wearing a watch.
yes,
And when Chris left, did he walk?
yeah, he kept walking.
Okay, that's all the questions I have for now.
Any cross?
Okay, yes, Your Honor. So you say, how far is your house from State Street again?
It's 4 houses away from
Okay.
State Street.
And did you give a statement saying that Chris stopped at your house at about 8 o'clock, talked for a while, complained that he was not allowed to use the family car? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Also, on your statement, when the defendant left, he stated that he was looking
Objection,
for
Your Honor,
some
hearsay.
action. Isn't that right? Sorry.
I'm sorry, ask the question again.
Okay, so on your statement, when the defendant left, I'm sorry, didn't you give a statement saying that the Chris stopped at your house at about 8 p.m., talked for a while, and complained that he was not allowed to use the family car?
That's permissible. Go ahead.
It was the next part that I was objecting to.
What's the
Yeah.
next part? I mean, I can only go question by question.
Sorry.
You can answer that question.
Yeah, he complains that his parents wouldn't let him use the car that night.
Thank you. And also in your statement, when the defendant left, he stated that he was looking for
Objection,
some
Your Honor,
action,
hearsay.
right?
Goes to show that
This is cross-examination. Were you referring to what this witness said or what the
Yes,
defendant said?
her statement,
Okay,
from her statement.
that's
yeah.
permissible.
So-
Yeah, I remember him saying that he was looking for some action.
Okay, and is that true that when the defendant set his backpack down in front of your house, it clunked?
Objection, Your Honor, speculation.
That's her statement, Your Honor.
I'll allow it.
Yeah, I heard the backpack make a clunk sound.
Okay, and also in your statement, did you say that you look at your watch and think it was 8:15 when he left? Is that correct?
I thought it was a little after 8:15.
Okay, so did anyone see you and Mr. Beck talking outside your house?
I'm not sure. People might have walked by.
Okay, and how long have you and the defendant been friends for?
We've been friends the last 10 years since we were little kids.
Okay, and what was Chris wearing again when he came to your house? In
He
front of
was
your house?
wearing a green hoodie.
And did he, the backpack is blue, you say, correct?
Yep.
Mhm. And how is that possible that you, as a senior student in high school, looking at your watch, couldn't be absolutely certain about the time? Because maybe
Objection, Your
there's a
Honor,
briefing?
argumentative.
That's from her statement.
Sustained. You're arguing with her. You can ask her
Okay.
questions, but you can't argue with her. How can you
Okay.
say?
All right, Your Honor, I'm sorry. So let's see, what else? Okay, so you think he's talked to you for a while and he left at 8:50?
I
And
think
your
it was-
house,
I think it was after 8:15, a little after 8:15.
okay, all right. But no, you're friends for 10 years, but it's a fine. All right, thank you very much for your time.
Is there any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor, do I have permission to share my screen and a map of the location?
Well,
Just-
I'm wondering if you're beyond the scope. That's the kind of thing that should have been, are you offering it for a new, anything to do with the cross-examination?
Well, I just wanted to show that he was 4 houses down as asked by the prosecution, but if people have a good idea of where he lives, then that's fine.
Okay, we'll move on. Is
Okay.
there anything else?
Yes. I would like to ask Terry some redirect. Did Chris seem like he was in a big hurry that night?
No, we talked a while. We chatted for a long time. He wasn't in a hurry.
And did at any point in time, did he say he wanted to steal a car?
No.
So he had nowhere to go.
Object,
and
Your Honor, that's speculation, like.
I was just
Well,
asking
because-
of her own knowledge if Chris had said that to her.
And she said no. Is that correct? Was that your answer, Ms. Potter? Okay.
Yeah.
And when Chris left, you said he was walking away. He didn't seem like he had a direct place to go from your impression of it.
Correct.
Okay, that's all. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I have a question.
For the witness?
Yes,
Okay.
all right. At any point in time, did the accused, Chris Beck, tell you that he wasn't going to steal a car?
Objection, Your Honor. That is speculation.
No,
The question is, he either said it or he didn't say it. That's
Yeah.
the question. The witness can answer, yes, he said that, or no, he didn't say that. There's no speculation there. So did he make that statement to you, Ms. Potter?
He did not talk about stealing a car.
Anything further?
The
Okay, yeah,
defense
but
rests, Your Honor.
But the question was, did he tell you he was not going to steal a car?
No.
Not that he was, that he was not.
Objection.
Objection, Your
Leading.
Honor.
Let's hear the
Leading.
answer. The answer is no. Is that correct, Ms. Potter? I think that's what I heard you
The
say.
answer is no.
Thank you. No further questions.
Anything further? Does the defense rest?
The defense rests, Your Honor.
Okay. And there's no rebuttal case here. So are we ready for closing statements?
Yes, we are, Your Honor.
Okay, then let's begin with the defense, and then after that'll be the prosecutor's closing.
Thank you, Your Honor. First and foremost, thank you, members of the jury, for your time and your patience. We value the time you will be dedicating to deciding the fate of Christopher Beck. Chris is a kind, hardworking student with a clean record who fell upon some unfortunate events which may haunt him for the rest of his life. On September 2nd, 2021, Chris's night went from trying to blow off some steam in a healthy manner after getting into an argument with his parents by taking a walk and running into a few friends, to being wrongfully accused of committing a heinous crime, something he would never do. It is important to remind yourself when deciding the verdict just what beyond a reasonable doubt means. This means that if you feel like you need to hear other evidence, need to ask more questions, or wish you could find out a little bit more before deciding, there is doubt. And doubt in this case equals not guilty. The prosecution will want you to focus on a green hoodie mentioned to distinctly place Chris in the vehicle at that time. The car owner who admitted to being drunk that night to the point where he admitted to feeling dizzy, thus rendering his sight, and did not see the exact person driving the car. He claims he saw a green shirt or hoodie. On September 2nd, football season is just days away. I don't know how much you know about football, but Bucks County is known for their huge support of the Philadelphia Eagles football team. It doesn't take a huge leap of imagination to think there are more than a few green shirts and hoodies being worn in Bucks County that night. In addition, the 2 other boys that were driving the car were never apprehended, so it can be safe to assume that perhaps one of them was wearing a green hoodie as well. In addition to all of this, the book bag was found in the back of the seat of the vehicle, exactly where Chris was sitting. The 2 other people fled the scene, and having the backpack in the back seat places Chris's body back there as well. We do not know why the backpack was unzipped, but all we can confirm is that the officer found no tools in the book bag and was not in the driver's seat at all during all of this. Marty Fenster admitted to being intoxicated, someone who made the poor judgment to drive home from the bar after a few drinks and openly admitted to not being able to see clearly. You can hardly see someone in the front seat with headlights on, or besides being in the driver's seat sober, let alone from the back of the car with no headlights, intoxicated. We are now placing the fate of this young man in the hands of you, the jury. We hope that you will find this young man not guilty on all counts. There is simply not enough evidence and plenty of reasonable doubt to ultimately lead Chris to a not guilty verdict. The prosecution has tried to paint this picture of this young man as deviant, malicious criminal. This is far from the truth. We ask of you, the jury, to help us in allowing Chris to go back to his studies, continue hanging out with friends, and live a normal life as a teenager. Thank you.
Thank you very much, counsel. Does the state's closing?
Yes. Okay.
Please proceed. Proceed, counsel.
Good afternoon, Your Honor and the jury. Green is guilty, and guilty is the verdict that we are asking you to return against the defendant, Chris Beck. Today, it was our job to prove to you that the defendant is guilty of crimes against you, the people that live and work in this community. This includes 2 counts, one of unlawful driving away a motor vehicle, and 2, buying, receiving, possessing, or concealing stolen or converted property. In this case, we have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, Chris Beck, wearing his green sweatshirt, is guilty. The defense has tried to dazzle you with pictures of cars and distract you from actual facts. The fact that Mr. Beck was in the car. He got out of the car after the crash. He was identified, he was read his rights and arrested. He was part of a stolen car situation. They say it was a case of mistaken identity. They say that Mr. Potter, he looked at his watch and he knows what time it was, but then yet he says he wasn't sure. Mr. Beck said he left and went to State Street, got there around 8:30, drove around for a while. I don't know, drove around for a while. They got picked up at 8:30 when the car crashed. Doesn't quite fit. So based upon the evidence and the undisputed facts, you've heard the defendant committed these crimes. Green is guilty. So how do we know the defendant is guilty and we've proven the required elements of the crime? Let's go through them. Unlawful driving away a motor vehicle. Did the motor vehicle in question belong to someone other than Chris Beck? Yes. It belonged to Marty Fenster, the victim. Did Marty Fenster allow for the possession of the vehicle? No. Marty Fenster chased down his vehicle, reported it stolen, and said that they were not intoxicated, that they had a few drinks socially, went home, listened to their program, and was not drunk. Did the accused Chris Beck drive away or take the motor vehicle? Yes, we heard from every single witness today that Chris Beck, wearing a green hooded sweatshirt, was everywhere a crime was committed. Didn't Mr. Potter said the defendant walking and wearing his green sweatshirt. He saw him by his house. The defendant complained to Mr. Potter about being upset with his parents because he wasn't allowed to use the family car and that he was out, quote, looking for some action. Mr. Beck has not provided evidence that anyone saw him talk to Mr. Potter or witnessed him walking into town, a town of 100,000 people. There were no witnesses to his whereabouts. Mr. Fencer only lived a few blocks from Mr. Potter. We saw that the driver taking the car out of the driveway was wearing a green sweatshirt. Officer Lee Smith saw a man wearing a green sweatshirt driving the stolen car on State Street, and after the short pursuit and crash, Officer Smith identified Chris Beck exiting the driver's side wearing a green sweatshirt. Green is guilty. Was the driving or taking away without unlawful authority? Yes, no one gave the defendant lawful authority to drive Marty Fencer's car. So for count 2, we're looking at buying, receiving, possessing, or concealing stolen or converted property. Was the property stolen? Yes, undisputed fact. Did Chris Beck receive, conceal, or aid in the concealment and therefore convert property? Yes, he participated in the unlawful taking and driving of Marty Fencer's car. Therefore, Mr. Beck converted that property by denying Mr. Fencer the right to his car. Joyriding, we all know what that is. We heard Officer Lee Smith testify. When he attempted to pull the stolen car over with lights and sirens, the car tried to evade him. It crashed. After Mr. Beck escaped from the driver's side, he was apprehended and his rights were read. Officer Smith found in the car an open backpack with Mr. Beck's name on it, with a hammer and a screwdriver, quote, tangled in the straps. A hammer and a screwdriver in a backpack would certainly make a clunk when it hit the ground. A book and a jacket? Not so much. Why was the backpack even open? If all that was in there was a book and a jacket, what he wasn't even wearing? Based on the testimony and expert opinion of Officer Smith, we know these tools can be used and were likely used to pop an ignition and steal a car. Was the property identified as being the same property which was been previously stolen or converted? Yes. It's undisputed the car the defendant was driving and crashed matched the license plate and vehicle description of the car Marty Fencer reported stolen. Chris Beck must have had knowledge that the property was stolen or converted. Yes. The fact that he ran from the police confirms he knew the car was stolen and converted and didn't want to get caught. And is the car worth over $100 when it was taken? It's a Mercedes-Benz. It's worth over $100. So in conclusion, we know based on the testimony, the undisputed facts and evidence you have heard and seen today that Chris Beck, wearing his green sweatshirt, had the time, the tools, and the desperate desire to drive a car. As representatives of the people of the state of Pennsylvania, we wanted to thank you, the jury, for your service today. We believe we have proven the necessary criminal elements and ask that you find the defendant, Chris Beck, guilty of the offenses he is charged with today. Green is guilty. Prosecution rests, Your Honor.
Thank you very much to both counsel for excellent summations. And Madam Clerk, would you read the charge to the jury before dismissing them to deliberate?
Yes, Your Honor. Just so everyone is aware, usually when the jury instructions are read, the courtroom doors are locked and no one is allowed to enter or exit. I realize that some of our witnesses do have to leave. That is fine, but they should do so now. The goal, just so everybody knows, the goal is that there's actually no distractions to the jury when they're hearing the instructions, because they are not given copies and they are not repeated. Okay. So I know that some of our witnesses have to leave. I will thank you profusely, for the next year. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. We'll read the jury instructions. The jurors will go into a breakout room and deliberate. Some of you were in my class. It's an excuse lateness, just in case, obviously. Okay, so we'll read the instructions beginning now, okay? Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, okay? The defendant is charged with violating Pennsylvania Penal Code Section 413 and Section 535. To convict a defendant of the following, the rules apply. Penal Code Section 413, unlawfully driving away a motor vehicle. To convict defendant of this offense, the following elements must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. 1, the motor vehicle must have belonged to another. 2, possession of the motor vehicle must have been taken without lawful authority. 3, the defendant must have driven or taken away the motor vehicle. 4, the driving or taking away must have been done without lawful authority. 5, it does not matter whether the defendant intended to keep the vehicle, but he must have intended to take lawful possession of the vehicle, unlawful possession of the vehicle, and drive or take it away. Okay. It is also the law that any person who assists in taking possession of the vehicle or in driving or taking it away is also guilty of this crime if such assistance is given with the intent to take unlawful possession of the vehicle. All right, so again, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that is Code 413, okay? Penal Code 535, buying, receiving, possessing, or concealing stolen, embezzled, or converted money, goods, or property. To convict defendant of this offense, the following elements must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. 1, some property must be shown to have been stolen or converted. 2, the defendant must have received or concealed or aided in the concealment of that property. 3, the property must be identified as being the same property which had been previously stolen or converted. 4, at the time the property, I'm sorry, was there a question? Okay. 4, at the time the property came into the defendant's possession, the defendant must have had knowledge that the property was stolen or converted, or defendant must have had sufficient time to give up possession of the property after obtaining knowledge that it was stolen or converted. 5, the property at the time it was received or concealed must have had fair market value which exceeded $100. The following definitions apply to this offense. Stolen property is property which has been taken by stealing. To steal is to take the property of another without his or her consent, intending to permanently deprive him or her of it. Converted property is property which has been taken by conversion. Conversion is any act or control over another's property in denial of or consistent with the owner's rights. In other words, conversion is the wrongful deprivation of another of possession of his or her property. To receive is to accept possession of property. To conceal is to intentionally hide, put out of sight, or do any other act to avoid the property being discovered or observed. Under the facts of this case, defendant cannot be convicted of both defenses. And just so the jurors and attorneys are aware, I have sat through jury's instructions that have taken hours. Okay. At this point, I'm going to put all of the members of the jury into a breakout room with myself. You'll have the opportunity to deliberate. Okay. Then we'll come back and juror number 1, who's agreed to be our foreperson, will read their verdict. Okay. So the questions that the jury will have to answer are 2. 1, do you find the defendant guilty of Penal Code 413, unlawfully driving away a motor vehicle? 2, do you find the defendant guilty of Penal Code 535, buying, receiving, possessing, or concealing converted money, goods, or property? So don't say anything yet. We're going to go into a breakout room. I'm about to have the opportunity to do something that every lawyer wishes that they could do. So I'm pretty excited, okay? Everybody else sit tight, and then we'll come back after the jury's come up with a decision.
So when they're in the breakout room, can we speak freely amongst ourselves?
I believe so. The judge will still be in the courtroom, as will Professors Costello and Simcox. So
Okay.
keep that in mind. But otherwise, no, I think that's fine.
Okay, so it's just us, right?
Wait for me to leave.
Oh,
Okay,
okay. Well, you know what I'm going to talk about.
guys, I just have to say, I mean, amazing. I'm so impressed. I'm so impressed. I hope you all feel great. Okay, I'll be right back.
All right. And just for the record, when the defense showed a picture of a late model vehicle, they showed this old 2000 Mercedes. That's not the definition of late model, which is what they tried to express to the jury. Late model means the newest model made. So they showed this old 2000 Mercedes and said it was a late model vehicle, which is erroneous.
Did you bring that up in front of the jury?
I couldn't by the time I was done and tried to get back in and looking things up. And, you know, I mean, they're grounds for appeal, right?
Well,
And deliberately trying to.
the prosecutors don't get to appeal. Defendants get guilty.
Right.
Defendants who are convicted get to appeal. Now, I have to say, Seth Wilson, I thought the thing I really liked was bringing up how much of the War and Peace could weigh. I would have brought in the book because it is heavy. And if it's a
Well, if
hardback, that would
if we
explain
were in
that trunk.
person, I was gonna do that.
But here's the thing, Ally, your closing was great. But, you know, first of all, you read it. And I had the feeling you wrote it based on the case materials that we received, not based on the testimony. Maybe some, because, you know, it was so clearly written before the trial. I don't think you mentioned that thing about the clunk was explained by the heavy book as opposed to the burglar tools. Another Seth's idea that there are 3 burglar tools, and you didn't mention. I thought that was a really good. You know, 2 of them okay, but if he's really, where's the 3rd one? And that wasn't in your closing because you had written it before, which is one of the tough things being a lawyer, because you can do your summation, you spend all night doing it, but you still have to respond to the other side's case, and you've got to do it, you know, in the moment, you know, in the courtroom. So that always makes it kind of tough. But I thought there were some very good, you know, arguments presented by both sides. What do you guys think?
I had a blast.
Now,
You
I've got
guys
to
did
tell you
awesome.
something, Seth, if just let's think presentation here. This is what you were doing most of the time. You're showing them the side of your head because you're looking at your notes over here instead of engaging with the audience. Just, you know, a little stylistic thing. Look, a lot of young people, they're like this when they talk to people. They're not a good feel. You know, you want to engage with your audience as much as you can. The closings were both very good. Everything, cross-examination. There were a bunch of things you could have objected to. When, you know, Seth, you wanted that police officer qualified as an expert witness. They didn't do that. They didn't qualify. And so I immediately said, well, you've qualified. Well, no, nobody qualified. You could have objected on that. But now I understand why you didn't, because you wanted that witness to be your expert witness. Because of the missing tool, which I thought was very, you know, between that, the clunk, you might have had a little bit of, what do you guys think? You think it's going to be guilty or not guilty? You think there's any reasonable doubt there?
Green is
Guilty.
guilty.
In my mind,
Daggone
of
it,
course
Ann, that
there
was
is.
brilliant.
You what?
He's guilty of something.
Not guilty. I would have plea bargained this case out with Seth. We would have gave him probation until the kid turned 18 and graduated high school. The victim got her car back, move on.
There you go. They don't have enough time really to try cases like this. That's what plea bargaining was invented for.
It was very difficult not being able to speak to the witnesses ahead of time to get a feel of what they were going to say.
Oh, yeah. It's really difficult for you.
That
And
was tough.
the defendant was not well prepared. I mean, he was sitting there reading the answers. I mean, he didn't come off that credibly. Anything that surprised you?
Marty Fenster's rambling a little bit,
Well, who was Fenster the owner of the car?
the vehicle owner.
You know, and she was giving you whatever you needed to work with. Well, I was drinking cognac because I didn't have my bourbon with me, or whatever it was. I mean, she was doing her best to come off looking like a lush. So there was a lot of stuff seeded in there, and I think you guys did pretty well. But I was not expecting the heavy book. I wasn't expecting the missing third burglary tool. Is that true? Are there typically three? I would think a crowbar would be enough. Well, for breaking into a house.
But I mean, technically, do you have to have all three? I mean, yeah, maybe there's three that are commonly
Well, I don't know. If I were
used.
him, I would have followed up with that a little bit. It wasn't developed, that well, but it was enough to plant a seed.
Sure. The timeline was the part that kind of roughed me up, was when Chris said that he got to State Street around 8:30, got in the car, drove around a while cruising. But the police clearly, they have a documented time of when they saw the car, when it crashed, when he was arrested, and that all happened at 8:30, 8:31, 8:32. So that there was definitely some gaps there in the timeline for sure.
Yeah, and that's what you want to focus on if it's important.
Yeah.
If the timeline is important, and I think it was kind of important here.
Yeah.
That's why we were trying to establish an alibi.
Yeah.
That was very.
The hardest part was the time constraint for us, like 4 minutes. Like we could have.
Yeah.
I read through that thing I would never have read through that fast. Like I felt like I was just dumping words, like I would have.
You did great, Ann. I heard everything you said. I thought you presented it very well.
Thanks, Tara. You guys, all of you guys did a great job.
I didn't hear either one of you rushing through. I think you did a really nice job.
Thanks.
And the openings also were very good. You think they're coming back here?
Yeah.
The tears.
Coming.
The tears.
We're here.
Tears are always a bad sign.
So some of the jurors have class and have to leave, but I invited some of them to stay in case the attorneys had any questions for them. And I'll just, if you could just let me gush over you guys for a hot minute. I'm just so beyond impressed. I'll talk about that more later, but this is my most, I don't know. I'll stop. Okay. Madam Foreperson, has the jury reached a verdict? Okay, we don't have our foreperson.
It's juror 2.
Yeah, juror number 1. I can just move her. Okay.
I think she may have accidentally left the meeting while entering back the breakout room, because I've done that before.
Fair enough. We'll get her back. That's fine. Oh, there she is. Okay. All right. Madam Foreperson, do you still have access to the chat? Okay. You're on mute.
I do have access.
Okay. Has the jury reached a verdict?
Yes. Your Honor, on the charges of Penal Code 413, we find the defendant, Chris Beck, not guilty. On the charges of Penal Code 535, we find the defendant, Chris Beck, not guilty.
Okay, thank you very much, George. You will be excused. If any reporters contact you, just so you understand, you may decide to speak to them or not. And thank you very much for your service.
but feel free to stay and chat. Okay, so yeah, guys, I mean, wow, this is my favorite day of the work year. Well, this and graduation. And you know, I'm just so excited. And John, thank you so much. Like, same time next year.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
Okay.
Thank you very much. We learned
Thank
a
you, Your
lot.
Honor.
Thank you.
It was
Really
a
appreciate it.
pleasure.
Yeah, wow. And I don't think everybody knows this, but both teams are a little leaner in their numbers than when we started, which has its challenges, but you guys overcame them. Now, do any of the attorneys have any questions for the jurors?
Yeah,
Go ahead,
what was the big topic of discussion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys only had a green sweatshirt. Your police officer witness openly admitted they never saw the face. Nobody saw his face. And when the defense comes up and says it's September, it's football season, yes, it is a sea of green in Bucks County. There were a couple of other factors, but you guys really just pushed this green sweatshirt, and it just wasn't enough for me.
Okay.
I just want to thank Tara because that was totally her idea with the Eagles and the green hoodie. And I was like, we're including that. That's so good.
Thank you, Ally.
Any other
Yeah, that was a
questions?
good
for the
job.
jurors?
Did you guys talk about an alibi at all?
No, and I thought the timeline was actually going to come up, but it didn't.
Yeah, there was so much doubt about everything else. We didn't even get to the timeline, which, you know, didn't make sense. So
It definitely didn't work for the prosecution, I can tell you that one way. If we had gone into more deliberations, I'm pretty sure like the timeline would have become a lot more relevant. His alibi with Terry would have become relevant. And honestly, the credibility of Marty Fencer. I mean, you know, 5 drinks, drove. It's like she kind of lost a little credibility there with me.
Can I just say that is Marty Fenster was portrayed by the dean of the STEM department. She's done this every year and she always does like such an amazing job. And this is like so beyond, I think, what she does normally. So no. And then Chris Beck found out that that's my husband. And we had somebody who unfortunately couldn't make it at the last minute. And so last night I'm like, hey, so what are you doing tomorrow? And he's like, well, I have back-to-back presentations and I'm teaching 2 classes. I'm like, well, you're free 12:15, you know? So I thought he did pretty good. I'll tell him, he'll be self-conscious about it, I know, but I'll tell him he did a good job.
As a scared teenager who wasn't quite sure where he was.
Right? Like of all the witnesses, you know, I mean, yeah.
For the defense, one thing I thought you guys should have brought up, how does an 18-year-old kid know how to hotwire a car? I would have brought that up.
YouTube.
That is a very valid point.
I was just about to say the same thing. YouTube, trust me, they know how to do amazing things besides like clean their rooms and take out the trash.
Yeah.
My barber learned entirely how to be a barber specifically through YouTube videos, whereas usually you'd have to go to a school, and he's the best barber I know. So yeah, you can learn a lot of interesting skills from that.
I fixed my dishwasher on YouTube and I can barely turn on my computer, so it works.
You guys are all describing legal things. Hotwiring a car is not a legal thing. It's like going on YouTube trying to Google making a bomb. I'm gonna have the FBI at my doorstep in like 12 hours.
Yeah, please don't do that. We do not accept liability if you get picked up by the feds.
This is getting into STEM territory, I guess. So usually this never happens. Usually lawyers never have the opportunity to talk to jurors. You know, I am. So what do you guys think on the jury? Do you want to sign up to do this next year? You're in, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Attorneys.
yeah, it's fun.
Attorneys, any advice for them? Don't say don't do it.
Do it.
Each person prepare for every role because at some point you will need
it does happen. I mean, I had, earlier today, I emailed 14 folks with a link to be on the jury. And now we have, very fewer than that. These things happen. When I was a law clerk, I tell this story in my classes. So if you've heard it before, I'm sorry. There was an attorney who had a heart attack in the middle of the courtroom, in the middle of a trial. And my boss recessed for the afternoon. So, these crazy things happen.
Professor Seibert, I have a question about that. Did the court stenographer take everything down as they were having the heart attack?
I don't think so.
Because I really just don't know when a court stenographer stops.
Yeah, they keep going. I mean, they keep going. Speaking of recording.